Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 228 of the Well Done Life podcast. And hello, welcome back to episode 228 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis. If you are new here, hey, how are you? Welcome. I am so glad that you're here this week. I hope that you will stay for a very long time. If you've been here before, you guys know the deal. I love you deep. Thank you so much for continuing to support me. I wouldn't be here without you, and I'm very grateful for you. Before we get started with this week's episode, I always like to be foundational. For those of you that have been listening for a while, I'm sure you can probably recite with me, but it's really important to me that as we're building this safe space, that we treat it like a house. And with the house, you want to make sure that your foundation is strong. So I always like to start off by talking about the foundation of this safe space, which is clarity and love. Clarity is really straightforward. I just really want you to understand that I created the Well Done Life brand because I believe in the power of women. I believe in the power of us sharing our stories and just being able to learn and grow and inspire each other, because there was a season in my life where even though I had a beautiful friend circle, I was struggling with things that I just didn't feel like my friends understood. And so I wanted to create this space, or I was looking for a space where I could just talk to a variety of women, because each of us were probably at a different stage of life, and learn from them and be inspired by them. You know, I needed some inspiration just because life was doing what it does and I was feeling lost. So hopefully by me sharing my story, the good, the bad, the ugly of it all, and by also spotlighting other amazing women, that you will see that there are cycles of life where you are going to have the highs as well as the lows, but everything that you will encounter has probably been encountered before, and that there are people out here who can show you how to navigate through it. You are not alone, and you don't have to self-isolate to navigate through tough times. And also, you don't have to always look within your friend circle. Sometimes it's good to venture out. So hopefully this safe space makes you want to venture out and feel like you can be supported and seen, because that's what we do here. Everything that we do in this space is going to be rooted in love. And love, like I said, is my second foundation. It's the most important foundation for me because I'm a sucker for love. And I believe in the power of love. And so for me, it's really important as we are building this space and talking about so many things that I always started off by sharing prayers with you. Yeah, because I truly am a believer in the power of prayer, as well as the power of two or more coming together in a prayer for magnification. And so I personally believe I'm not the only one out here talking and praying. And so I like to believe that all of you guys are praying in alignment with me, just as I'm praying in alignment for you. And so I always like to make sure that I started off with prayers. And so this week, I definitely am standing like I've been standing before. I'm standing on peace. It just continues to be such a noisy world. And there are so many different things that we are exposed to. It's so funny. I saw like a meme, GIF, whatever. And I think it was Charlie Brown and Snoopy. And Charlie Brown was talking to Snoopy, like, what's wrong? And what's wrong? And Snoopy was saying to the effect, like, I miss life before I knew what life really was. And so I say that to say, it's like, life has so many different things that we are exposed to, and we're seeing so much. The truth is extremely loud right now. And so it's very hard to find peace when there's so much noise sometimes. And so I'm just sending you prayers that you will actually carve out a moment for yourself where you give yourself peace, where you disconnect just for you, even if it's for 5 minutes, just standing still in a corner. Because sometimes it's just like that. You got to stand still in a corner, or you just sit in your car, just whatever it is. I pray that you have a moment to breathe. I pray that you have a moment to close your eyes and just ask for peace. Just, let it wash over you. Allow yourself to regulate your mind and your body, because with all of the truth being so loud and all of the things thrown at you, it is really easy to absorb different energies into yourself. And I say that to say because, stress is a leader of cortisol. Cortisol creates inflammation in the body. That obviously contributes to weight gain, but it also contributes to muscle fatigue. It can contribute to headaches. It can contribute to high blood pressure. It can continue to hypertension or high blood pressure. It can contribute to heart issues. Like, there's just so many different things that I hate to say the environment can do to our bodies. And so you have to, as you are trying to navigate life and do all the wonderful things that you do, give yourself a moment to breathe. Give yourself a moment to check in with yourself. Give yourself a moment to just be grateful for even a second, a moment, an instant of peace, because that peace will lead you into my next prayer, which I'm standing on. I'm going to keep standing on it because I just feel like we need it, which is clarity. Again, there's truth is loud, so much noise. You have to be able to sometimes see things as they are, not what we want them to be, but to see them as they are. And that could be good as well as tough sometimes. Please allow yourself to be able to see the truth of things. Realize that you are so resilient, that you are able to make decisions not just based on temporary situations, but you can make long-term decisions. You know that you can handle anything that you are faced with, for, God gave us the strength within him to be abundant, to be blessed, to be strong, to be focused and be intentional. Don't doubt who you are, because God never doubted who you are. And yes, life will throw things at you, but always know that you are an overcomer, that you are good enough, that you can keep going and persevering. Just sometimes you have to be able to see the clarity in situations in order to move through them. And a lot of times we're not able to see things clearly, that's what keeps us in situations longer than what we need to be. So give yourself the strength in your peace, in your moments of solitude, to be able to pray for clarity, and realize that in that clarity, you have the strength to face anything that you are challenged with, because you are one of one. You are truly unique and divine, and God equipped you to be able to move through. Yes, it'll be tough when you're moving through, but you can move through it. Don't get caught up in the season that you're in, because one of the worst things that you can do for yourself is make permanent decisions in temporary situations. Always recognize that sometimes the things that you are going through right now are temporal, and you cannot allow it to have the energy of permanence in your life. So my first two prayers for you this week, obviously, are clarity and peace. And then rounding out clarity and peace, I'm sending prayers into the world for empathy. I see how empathy is one of those things that I personally feel is like dying in our society, and it's heartbreaking. It is very telling when you see people close their eyes to atrocities like we see what's going on overseas with Gaza, the children starving and everything. And there are so many different aspects of that that we could talk about. Personally, I stand against genocide. I love everyone. I have no type of ill will in my heart for people. I just hate seeing people suffer. I hate seeing people starving. And I know we have our own situations here within the United States. I mean, today I was driving home from taking my sister to work, and I saw two homeless people get into an argument so bad that one gentleman pushed another gentleman into oncoming traffic today. And luckily the person who was coming, because, traffic was coming, he had the wherewithal to stop. But when I see people who have literally nothing arguing about possibly nothing, because I really wasn't listening to the conversation, to the point that you would put someone else's life at jeopardy, that you would be willing to push someone into oncoming traffic because you are that frustrated, you are that angry. I really feel like obviously there may be some underlying emotional things that I am not aware of, but the value of human life is something that we are starting to get too comfortable with being so easily taken away. And I think that, again, like I said, leads me back into empathy. I worry because, as a society, as a human being, we should never get so comfortable with seeing the suffering of other people that we lose our empathy, that we lose our humanity. And we have to protect that and guard ourselves, guard your hearts with that, search who you are and make sure that you are dialing into empathy. Because I always like to say, you just never know how the tables will turn. Life can switch on a dime for any of us. And we all need to understand that people are out here just doing their very best. Most people. Now, obviously, there are some people out here who are doing a lot, who are doing the most. And, it's always going to be that way. But that doesn't mean that we have to lose our empathy. We should never be caught up up so much in acquiring stuff and doing things that we forget about the basic decency of our humanity, our empathy. We should still be able to hurt and to advocate and to speak truth to power when we see people being oppressed. Because if you don't speak truth to power about someone else's oppression, when the oppressor comes for you, what are you going to do? Because it all comes around full circle. No one is above it. People act like they are, but they're not. And that is willful ignorance. And you have to remember who you are in God. God made you to treat your brother as your brother, not for you to judge. That's God's job. But many of us have taken it upon ourselves to be judge, jury, and executioner. And there's a cost for that. And so we just have to be cognizant. And so because the cost is coming due. And like I said, I can see this rise of loss of empathy. So I am praying for empathy in our world, in our society. I'm praying for everyone, because we can never lose sight of who we are as people. Because again, the judge, the bill, it always comes due. And then rounding out my prayers this week, I'm going to stand on abundance, because I truly believe in the power of being abundant. And again, it's not just financially abundant. Of course, I want you to be blessed beyond measure, because when you're able to be blessed, I know you can bless other people. But I also am hopeful that, again, we are still dialing into those moments of being abundant in our spirit, creating memories with the ones that we love. We have seen so much loss. God knows, I was so shocked by the passing of Malcolm Jamal Warner. I was even shocked by the passing of Hulk Hogan. Like, there's so many people that we are losing. And I'm not like going back and forth in regards to, people's personal lives. And I'm just thinking about the impact. And I know from my generation, Generation X, we grew up with those people. And so now to be at a point where we are seeing the people who were foundational in our youth die is very triggering. But it reminds me of one thing, the fragility of life, especially when I think about Malcolm Jamal Warner's passing, because he's only a few years older than I am. Actually, not even a few years. He was only 1 year older than me. How old am I? Like, don't mind me, child. I'm sorry. See, this is what happens when you're over 50. You lose what track of. But 2 years. He's only 2 years older than me. And I was shocked. And I'm so heartbroken by that, because he was with his daughter and his family. He was living, he was making memories and just trying to live a rich, abundant life. And I've noticed that I've never heard anyone say anything negative about him. And everyone speaks about what such a genuine, true person he was. And I think that's so rare in our times. Unfortunately, you don't see people who are just truly always just trying to live their right life, be focused on their family, living an abundant life, especially, I hate to say it, as celebrity, but he was obviously more than that. And so I say that to say that it reminded me of the importance of loving on the people that you're with, loving on people, creating moments, creating memories, telling people how you feel about them, because all of those things lead into spiritual abundance. And that abundance is going to make you wealthier than all the money that you could ever acquire in the bank. And we cannot lose sight of that, because again, like I was saying earlier, it seems like we're losing empathy. But at the same time, if I think about it, empathy and spiritual abundance, all of those things are kind of tied together, making sure that we are kind and considerate and caring and loving, just being who we were born to be. And so I just pray that we use these as reminders as we grieve, as we pass the loss, because even though we didn't know these people personally, we remember the memories that they made with us as youth. We remember them, especially my generation, the impacts that they had. I hope that we will take it as a reflective point to remember the preciousness of life and how important it is to live. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that today, because I think as I'm getting older, I'm learning about the importance of living, and I'm learning about the importance of living through all the death. Because like I told you guys before, no one talks about the losses. I hate to say it. Nobody talks about the losses. And I'll be honest, nobody really talks about how to live as you start to advance in age, but the losses and how to deal with them, how to magnify them. So we'll have another conversation, because ultimately I want everyone to remember, as we are wrapping up these prayers, as we are getting ready to dive into this topic, this is a time to live. If there is no time to live, before, it's time to live now. Like whatever limitations that you have put on yourself, what other thoughts, what other people that you are worried about, it is time to start shedding those things, because you only have one life to live, and you never know when your time is coming, and you want to make sure that you have given everything that you got, that you are loving fully and completely, that you have clear thoughts and heart about how you want to move forward, because there is no better time like the present to live. And so as I wrap up my prayers, like I said, with spiritual abundance, I want to just say, I hope that you will take a moment to find some memories, some love, and create more abundance within you. So those are my prayers for you this week. And yes, I feel like I'm just kind of narrating in, just kind of, like I said, diving into what I wanted to talk with you about, because again, like I said, this is about living. And when I was putting notes together for this episode, I wanted this episode really to be for those of us who have been living on autopilot. Yes, you know what autopilot is. That's, I've called it autopilot, but I'm also called it cycles of mediocrity. Those cycles where we're existing to please others and waiting for the right time, in air quotes, to finally choose ourselves. Today, I want to remind you that you're just not here to survive, but you are here to live. And if I could give you even something from a biblical context, I want you to have John 10:10. I have come that they may have life and they may have it more abundantly. And so kind of diving right into it, I mean, obviously we started off with like a big statement, about, autopilot, cycles of mediocrity. And I've been in cycles of mediocrity. And when you are in that cycle, it's a moment of whether you have to ask yourself, are you existing or are you living? And typically in cycles of mediocrity, don't get me wrong, because I've been in them before. God knows I did. I've told y'all before. I think even before I switched to the job that I work now, the company that I work for, I had previously been with another company, and it was a good company, but I was there for 14 years in a cycle of mediocrity. I wasn't looking to move through. I wasn't looking to learn. I did like little things here and there. I would grow as I could grow, as my mindset would allow me. But I was in a big cycle of mediocrity because life was really had its foothold on me. I was in my season of caregiving, just starting into it. I went through my season of grieving my father's loss at that time. My health was very challenged. I was emotionally fragile. I mean, I was broken. And so in those times, that's a season, like I said, of mediocrity, but it's a season of being able to survive. That was all I was focused on. I needed to survive. I needed a consistent job so that I could survive. I wasn't focused on living. I did a little bit of living. Like during that time, I traveled. I went to Africa, I went and saw the world. I went and got a mini MBA. Like I would spark out and do things. So don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that you're like a walking zombie, but I was a walking zombie, if I can say it like that. I know it sounds like a total context, but I'm not going to lie, I was. And when I say that, it's just because when you're in that season where a lot of times where you're existing versus living, it is very easy to just get comfortable with the routine, because it's like your mind doesn't have to do anything different, because every day is like the next day and the next day. And you're not trying to rock the boat, because you're thinking to yourself, you don't emotionally have the bandwidth to rock the boat. I got just enough just to get through this day, and that's good enough for me. And let me tell you, for those of you that are in that season, like I said, I've been in that season before. It's okay. I see you and I reach my hand out to you, because I know that sometimes you just need a hand. Sometimes you're not looking for that hand just to pull you out of the season. Sometimes you're looking for that hand to just rub your back and tell you that you're going to make it through. So let me do that for you. But for those of you that are in that season where you're like, I need a hand, somebody to pull me through, let me help pull you through. Because living in that season of existing takes a lot of an emotional toll. It does, because when you're existing, even though you are on autopilot, even though you are living in the season of mediocrity, remember, you are dulling down who you are emotionally. You are showing up for other people because you need to show up for them, but you're not showing up for yourself. And so you wind up beating yourself down a lot of times in that season. And it is really tough. It's so tough to get through. And so when you are in that season and you're trying to determine, like, how am I going to make moves? How am I going to get through it? What am I going to do? There becomes a point where you have to reflect, where you have to kind of take a moment to stop, and you really have to think about what you want out of this. And so these are the seasons where you have to maybe ask yourself two questions. One, what does living fully look like for you? And when I say living fully, I have that in air quotes, because everybody can sit up here, myself included, and tell you what you could do to live fully. But I would be telling you what to do to live fully based upon my context and experience of life. You not even fully understanding the scope of everything I have. I mean, because, like I said, I'm a caregiver. I have all these different things going on. But does that honor you? So you have to take a moment to ask yourself, based upon where you are in this particular moment of time, what does living fully, air quotes, look like for you? And when you make that determination, then you have to also think about, are you honoring your own needs or just your responsibilities? Because there are seasons, especially like I said, in my season of mediocrity, I spent a lot more time trying to honor my responsibilities versus honoring myself. I wasn't worried about me. I was trying to operate on as minimal needs as humanly possible. I will even tell it in the sense of, like, on all levels, financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Physically was a big one, because during that time, that was when I hurt my knee. Like, for those of you that don't know, I used to run quite a lot. I've run full marathons, half marathons, 5Ks, 10Ks, all those things. Yes, I have done that as a full-figured woman who started running at the age of 40. So that's a lot to paint. And so I hurt my knee from all those years of, running on pavement as an over 200 plus pound woman. And so I tore pretty much everything in the knee. I tore the ACL, the PCL, the meniscus. I had a cyst. Child, I did it all. And so I literally was like going through to a point where I couldn't even raise my leg up. Like, I lost the motor function of being able to do like a full leg lift. But in that season, I wasn't focused on me, especially in the beginning. I delayed having surgery like a month. When the chiropractic, I'm sorry, my chiropractor was the one who diagnosed me, but my orthopedic surgeon that she referred me to, he was like, okay, you need to have surgery. I was like, okay, cool. But I need to plan this out because I'm a caregiver and I got these responsibilities and my sister doesn't drive and I need to make sure my mom can't see. So I need to make sure that I have all these people together. Yes, I am that person. I literally delayed my own operation until I felt like I could logistically plan it out. And so I logistically took, I think I delayed surgery probably about 45 days, which I don't advise, but I delayed it 45 days so that I could get a plan. I was on crutches for the rest of that time. And I was still out here just doing whatever I needed to do because I needed to make sure my mom and sister were set up, to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Like, how soon can I drive afterwards? He was like, oh, maybe 6 to 8 weeks. I was like, nah, that's not going to work. What's a more aggressive strategy? He was like, hey, well, we could work it out. You probably could drive in 4 days. We'll do it where you don't have a brace. I had a really good surgeon, and I'll aggressively work with you because you are athletic. So let's try it. I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, because I was like, I need to drive as quickly as I humanly can. And I say all that to say that is not a reflection of me being a strong person. That is not about me, trying to power through recovery. That is someone who is not focused on their own well-being, who is trying to make sure that they are doing everything that they need for other people and not honoring themselves. And I didn't honor me in my recovery process. And I'll be honest, that not honoring me, I think, probably contributed to me having the setback that I had. And it wasn't like, luckily, a major setback. It just took me longer to learn how to walk straight again. I wound up having to be in physical therapy for almost like July. August, September, October, November, December, January, 6 plus months of physical therapy to learn how to walk straight. But I take that because that was me. I was so worried, hindsight being 2020, about trying to do everything for everybody that I wasn't honoring what I needed physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so I'm telling you that story because as you are trying to pull yourself out, again, this is for those people who are existing and not living. You have to, after you have fully decided what does life living fully, in air quotes, look like for you, you have to decide, are you honoring your own needs or are you just honoring the responsibilities? And you got to get super clear about that because you are going to have to make a shift. You are going to have to make a shift in yourself in order to ensure that you are really giving yourself the space to fully live. And, once you make that shift, then the work really begins. And so you start to honor yourself. You start to, say no. You start to look at your boundaries and explore why it's so hard for you not to give to other people. Literally it becomes that situation because a lot of times a lot of us are dealing with responsibilities and caring for other people and doing all of these things out of guilt, out of obligation, out of grief, not because we want to do them. And that's not a bad thing to say. To me, it's just a real thing to say because a lot of us just have to honor, just let's be honest. Not all of us want to be in the situations that we're in. I'm sorry, hand held high. I never wanted to be a caregiver. Never. That was not my plan. I was hopeful that my mother and father would be able to live together until death. Having my sister come and live with me, that was definitely a decision that I made, not because I viewed myself taking care of her. I viewed myself as giving her a space to be able to live, to be able to be autonomous versus staying home with two elderly parents who are going to shelter you because they have their own guilt tied to her limitations or her disabilities, not even limitations, because my sister is beautiful and thriving and super intelligent. But back in those days when people in the 70s, not like it's like the 1800s or anything like that, excuse me, being dramatic. But back in the 70s, as people uncovered 70s, early 80s, people uncovered that their children have, disabilities, special needs, especially in the Black community. It's not like it was widely spoken about. Everybody wants to act like everything is okay and sweep things under the rug and try to keep going and not make accommodations that are going to be able to help that person thrive. I recognized that and I was like, no, my parents are wonderful parents and they love us and they love her, but she is not going to thrive in this situation. She knew she wasn't going to thrive. And so she and I made the decision that she will come and live with me, but we lived as roommates. We lived as sisters. We lived as buddies and best friends, getting to know each other and thrive. So it wasn't what we call caregiving. But once Bunny, my mama, came in the situation, honey, it was a whole different caregiving situation. And that totally shifted the dynamic to responsibilities and really getting real about the fact this is not what I want to do, but it was what I need to do. It was what I'm supposed to do. And so I allowed my feelings to put me in a situation where I was living to fulfill responsibilities versus honoring my feelings, honoring myself. And that is a dangerous recipe. And so that's why I wanted to kind of make sure I share that, because I know many of you are out here in that season where you are being caregivers and nobody trains us to be caregivers. Nobody talks to you about being a caregiver. Everybody acts like it's the most honorable thing in the world to do. And it is. It is. It's an honorable thing to do, but it is one of the biggest sacrifices that you will ever have to make. It is one of the hardest things to do. And nobody talks about that with real honesty, but I'm going to talk about it with real honesty because let me just tell you, I have no regrets. This time that I've had with my mother in this way has truly reshaped our relationship and has done so much for us and has given me such a sense of peace that I never would have had if I hadn't done it, because I know that the day when she transitions, I'll have no guilt because Everything that could have ever been said has been said. Everything that could have been thought has been thought. All the stories, all the memories will live in me. I will be abundant in my spirit because she has poured into me. So there's no guilt, but I still stand on business in the fact that I did not want to do it. And so I want to give everybody space and honesty to admit it's okay if you don't want to do it, baby. It's okay. And it's okay to admit that. And actually admitting that is the gateway to you being able to deal with it in a better perspective. Because if you don't admit it, a lot of times it leads to resentments. And those resentments, again, keep you from honoring your needs and keep you in a lot of times dealing with a state of just dealing with responsibilities. And so, like I said, you're dealing with all of those things. And then life comes, and that's where, if we think about it as you are shifting into life and doing all those things, we have to talk about the weight of grief and the gift of time. Because I know for myself, like I've told you earlier, nobody tells you how to handle the losses. Because you're out here trying to live life, trying to do what you need to do, and then here come the losses. And I don't know about y'all, but none of my family ever told me, well, hey, this is, how we're going to handle grief and loss. We talked about death in my household is something that was going to happen, but never how to live past it. That's the thing. I hate to say, I think a lot of people spend a lot of time talking about, when it happens, this is, I'm not going to be here forever. This is what happened. But nobody talks about how to live on after it. Because, for those of us that are left, that's what it is living on after it. And how do you acknowledge loss? And we have to understand that it shapes us not just from a sense that we've lost this person that we love, but it shapes us in regards to how we value life. Because really, if we think about it, losing people reminds us we're still here. But are we making it count? And when I say that, I definitely think about one of the things that I was talking to you guys about recently, like this year, I talked about in last week's episode, actually, one of the reasons why I'm not doing a reset this year. And for those of you that are just new, the reset is a one-day experience that I curated last year for women. It's something that I've just started doing, and I will be doing it again, but not this year. And it's a one-day experience based upon talking about mental health, physical health, financial health, and building community. Because kind of like what I said in the intro, when I was looking for that space where I could learn and glean from other people, I fell apart in all those areas, and I realized the interconnectivity of them. So that is why I want to have an event where I can provide resources where we can honestly connect, where, we share the tea and inspire each other to help navigate. And you walk out with different tools and techniques to help you navigate those things. But one of the things, like I said, is understanding that this year I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because I knew God had planted in my soul that I was going to do this event. I'd had a major networking, retreat event with my brand extraordinaire, Tita Walker. We spent a weekend in Tampa. We did it. We outlined it. I have a beautiful outline of how to implement this year's event. I had it. And then God, less than 60 days in, was like, it's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen for a multitude of reasons. But one of the things was that God is like, you are going to experience loss this year. And I was going to lose. I was going to lose, some women who were like mothers to me. And one of the women that I lost was my godmother, Vernice. And my godmother was just such an amazing woman. Like, we talked to her every day. She talked to my mom every day. She called and checked on us all the time. We just loved her. She has been such a foundational person in our lives. And so, losing her rocked me, but losing her also reminded me to see time as sacred. And because it's not guaranteed, like I was taking it for granted. My godmother had been sick for a very long time, and she had been fighting a health battle for a very long time. I mean, over a decade that woman fought, and she did. But unfortunately, it came to a point where, it just overcame her. But one of the things that reminds me about the value of life is not the fact that she's not here. It's how she lived. She was always the person who, when she could, she was going to play bingo. She was on the internet talking to her friends. She was doing her thing. She was trying to always look at life as being precious and keep going no matter how she felt. And so it reminds me to see time as so sacred and to keep going because tomorrow is not guaranteed. And so I really want to make sure that we spend some time talking about it because, like I said, nobody trains you for the losses. And the losses are great. Many of us are going to experience the loss of our parents at this age. And how do you go on after losing your parents? I know from myself, losing my father was so foundationally hard for me. It broke me. And building myself back, I had to find the strength to keep going because he was my rock. He was the first man who loved me and saw me for who I was and inspired me to be better than what I even thought I could be because he always was pushing and encouraging me. And when we lose those people in our lives, especially at this age, even though everybody acts because you're like an adult, it's not that foundational. No, it is that foundational, especially if you had a good relationship with your family. It's rough when you lose them. And nobody talks about that. And nobody talks about how to navigate through after the funeral, because that's really what it is. It's not getting through the details of the funeral. You can get through that, but getting through afterwards, the memories and the reminders. I know for myself, I still wear my dad's shirt. I do. I have a shirt. My sister and I took articles of clothing. That was how we are. And so I have my Poppy shirt. I still wear it all the time. That shirt has holes. It has been patched up. I've had people talk to me at the dry cleaner like, hey, let me turn it into a short sleeve shirt. No, don't do nothing to it. Just patch that hole up because it was my father's shirt and I'm going to wear it because I'm kind of sentimental like that, but it gives me strength. And so what I'm trying to tell you is I will hope that as you are navigating life, that you will allow yourself to have comfort in the fact of seeing time as sacred. Make as many memories with the ones that you love as you can. Try to be as present as you can. Don't get so distracted and allow the loss to remind you that you're still here and make it count. Because that's how we honor the people that we love. Make it count. And make it count sounds super broad, but specifically what you should be doing and what you should not be doing. You don't need me to tell you that. Make it count. Do what speaks to your soul, what that person would have wanted you to do. Do it. Because why not? Why not? And one of the most powerful ways to honor those that we've lost is to live fully while we still can. Because that's what they would want. They would want us to live and to thrive. And so as you're out here, like I said, we're navigating life. We're looking at the weight of life. We're understanding that time is precious. You have to, in that season, also start to shed expectations and start to look for ways to reclaim joy. Because again, you've been in that season of how, we have put ourselves on the shelf. And if we think about it, sometimes culture, I hate to say it, faith spaces, and even just gender roles and self can pressure us into abandoning who we are. Like, we have to recognize we don't owe anyone our suppression. And when I say that, I especially start to thinking about aging. I'm very honest. I'm 52. And, over 50, a lot of times people are like, oh my God, that's so old. And like life is shortening. I think now we're starting to turn those aging thoughts on its ear because you're starting to see more. Our 50, my 50 is not my mama's 50. Generation X, we're a whole different new bag. And I see that we're pushing the envelope in so many different things. And especially, and I think about it in regards to women's health, like I'm very candid. I've told you guys about my health journey. And part of that is the fact that I am perimenopausal. And my menopause doesn't look like my mama's menopause. My menopause does not involve me sleeping on newspapers and struggling. I hate to say it. That's what my mom did because unfortunately resources were not not there to help her be able to live a more effective life. You know, she suffered. And when I talk to my mom now, even about some of the things that I'm encountering versus what she encounters, I'm just bewildered at like, wow, you can truly see how the generations have advanced, you know, and gone through different things. And I'm just very grateful that we are able to advocate for ourselves as women now on a much larger scale, because I think about the next generation behind me and the generation after that, they won't have to struggle as much. And so I really just want us to understand that one of the things that we have to start doing a better job of is just stop suppressing who we are because of our age. We have to understand that there is no time limit on joy. There's no expiration date on your dream. Aging is not the end. It's a launch pad. Because that's how I feel. Like I felt like 50 was like a jumping off point, and you didn't miss your moment. Like this is the moment where we're walking into who we are. And there's so much for us to accomplish, and it's so simple. It's just as simple as remembering that if we're still here, there's still life to live. Like literally, I mean, let's normalize late starts and second chances and radical joy at any age, because personally, I think about it like, you know, there are ways that you can start to reclaim your joy. Just because, okay, you are in this season of your life where you are shedding, you know, and growing and reclaiming who you are, and you realize like, okay, well, I'm older now. That doesn't mean that it's over. That's, like I said, the launching point. It's the jumping point. This is the time now to travel. This is the time to set boundaries if you've never set boundaries. I mean, God knows, I know for myself at 50, I'm so fresh out of care, so fresh out of fucks, excuse my language. At 50, I don't care, because I can't allow someone else's feelings anymore to stop me from living. I only have so much time. I only have so many summers left. And so it's time to live. It's time to travel. It's time to have boundaries. It's time to do new things. Pick up some new hobbies. You know, we keep doing the exact same thing over and over again and expect different results. It's time to recognize that that's not going to work anymore. You're not the same person that you were, and you don't want to be that person. So it's time to say yes to what sets your soul on fire. It doesn't matter how old you are. Say yes to what sets your soul on fire, because remember, if you're still here, there's still life to live. And we have to think then, just kind of looking at it about what God says about living fully. I mean, again, like I said earlier in John 10:10, it's about life more abundantly. Why are we acting like this is not God ordained for us to live an abundant, full life? It's that simple. Like literally, that doesn't even require me diving into it further. It is. I mean, living fully is alignment with God's desire for your life. And to align with that is to submit and to believe. It's not rebellion. Like everybody needs to stop acting like living a good life, being abundant, is against God's will. Where does it say that in the Bible? Because even if we want to like have more scriptural references, I reference two more for you guys too. Ecclesiastes 3:12-13 says there is nothing better than to be happy and do good while they live. And then Psalm 16:11 says, you make known to me the path of life. God is delighting in us choosing to live life fully. He's not looking for performance. He's looking for presence. It's time for us to do what God called us to do. So when we limit ourselves, when we suppress who we are, if you think about it, you are denying who God called you to be. And it's time to stop. It's time to stop, because there is no better time like the present to live, because life is short, but meaningful. I mean, let's think about it. You could probably sit here and right now, if you were to close your eyes for just 3 seconds and think of something instantly meaningful about life and how beautiful it is. Take that as a reminder to yourself that you're not too late. And also as a reminder that living fully is your birthright, because God ordained it to be. So I'm really asking you, this week as you are thinking about things and kind of manifesting and talking about, possibly what we discussed here today. I hope you do. I hope you do talk about it with someone or talk to yourself. I talk to myself. I'm just kidding. But anywho, I'm not kidding. But I hope that you will take this week to do and to choose something that makes you feel alive just because you can. Yes, just because you can. Not because I asked you to, but just because you can. And please, release the weight of performance and pick up the joy of being. Always remember the life is happening now and that you are worthy of it all. So that is this week's episode. I really want to thank you again, like I said, for, your continued support. I hope that you're able to glean something from it that will inspire you to live, because I want you to live fully and truly abundantly on all levels. I hope that you will share this with some friends and that you will share some notes with me about things that, you're trying to overcome. Like I said, if you need a hand, you need someone to pull you out of just existing. I hope this is me, and I hope I just pulled you through. I hope I gave you the beginning steps. I know it's not easy. And so if you ever need support, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm just a DM or an email away. I'm going to put all my information in the show notes, but you can always email me at hello@thewelldonelife or thewelldonelife@gmail.com. You could also shoot me a note in the comments under the post that you guys will see on Instagram, probably Facebook and Threads. I'm always open to chat and respond, because I know that God gave me the ability to share my journey, my testimony, to help inspire. And so I never will try to shield that. I always will try to help and be a support system for you, because I know what that's like. We're all out here just trying to do our best. And so I'm truly believing that you will do great things and live a beautiful, abundant life. And so I will be back next week. Yes, I'll be back next week with another new episode. I am very grateful, again, like I said, for you. I hope that you will take the rest of this Sunday to rest, relax, enjoy, and be good to yourself. Remember, do something that gives you joy because you can, not because somebody asked you to, but because you can. And I apologize, makes you feel alive too. I want you to have joy and feel alive by it because you can. So I will talk to you guys next week. Take care, and we'll talk soon.